Neighborhood Small Grants. So this is very exciting for the County Foundation. This is a way for residents of Prince Edward County to really get involved in your community and bring people together. That's what it's all about. So inspiring you on an individual and team level. So what it is, this is a micro grant of anywhere between $50 to $500. So you can apply for any amount in between that range to make your community a better place. Applications are open from March 25th to June 17th. You won't have an answer whether you've been approved until after that deadline. It's going to take us a couple of weeks to review applications and go through our process. So just want to make sure that everybody knows that you're probably going to hear back sometime in July about whether your grant has been approved. So here's what we're going to go through today. We're going to talk about what the heck is this thing, how to determine if you're eligible, how to apply, go through some examples of what is possible, but I will highlight that the examples are just that. They're just examples, and I'm really excited to hear what you as a community have planned and what your ideas are. And then we have Kim Coster, the Community Initiatives Coordinator, that's going to talk to municipal bylaws and permits that you may need, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So, what is a neighborhood small grant? So as mentioned, this grant program is a small but powerful idea to bring people together, to make your community vibrant. And as we know, through the pandemic, we were really missing that in-person connectivity. And that's really how you get to know your neighbors and other people that live in our community. And I think we all know that we've had an influx of new people to the area that are looking to become a little bit more ingrained in Prince Edward County, and also people that have been here for a long time that might want to step out and learn some new things and meet some new people. So what a great way to bring people together. So just want to highlight that a grant is money that you apply for. So you need to apply for the grant. You receive that funds, but you do not need to pay the money back. So that's essentially what a grant is. And projects that this is going to support basically drill down to bringing people together, as mentioned a couple of times, sharing skills. So you might have somebody in mind that has a particular skill, whether they are an artist looking to share something, could be a yoga teacher, somebody that's really good at knitting or sewing. And that might be something that your project is centered around, getting them to share that knowledge with the community. It's also around building a sense of belonging. So when you go to events like this and you're part of that network, you really feel like you belong to a community like Prince Edward. And then also respecting and celebrating diversity. So making sure that all ideas and all peoples are celebrated. One other thing that I will highlight is youth. So we've made a focus on supporting youth activities in Prince Edward County. So at least 30% of our funded projects are going to go towards youth-led initiatives. And the reason for this is we know that youth have really great ideas. Capital is something that they often don't have access to. And this is a great way for our young people to really become involved in the county. So again, for youth that might be listening to this webinar after the fact, please feel free to reach out if you have any particular questions. We'll go over some examples through the course of this webinar, but just want to let you know that we're really interested in supporting your ideas and projects and look forward to hearing about those. So what are the goals of the neighborhood small grants? So as mentioned, it kind of drills down to 4 areas. So connecting and engaging neighborhood residents. This could be a block party or a social gathering. Sharing skills and knowledge. An example that I've given a couple of times is a yoga instructor teaching a class. Building a sense of ownership and pride in our community. So that could be cleaning up an alleyway and having a bit of a get together afterwards, and respecting and celebrating diversity. So this could be learning to cook different food from different cultures or artwork from different cultures. Something like that would drill down into that area. So who can apply for this? Who is eligible? You must be a Prince Edward County resident, since this is all about supporting the county. The project must take place within your own neighborhood. And I did have a question earlier today about what does neighborhood mean? What does what does that term mean? And it's a little bit open, so it doesn't necessarily have to be your particular street. But for example, I live in Sophiasburg in Prince Edward County. So that could be a definition of my neighborhood. It could be around the County Road 5 area if I'm collaborating with a neighbor on that street. So it's a little bit open to interpretation. What we're trying to avoid here is having it take place, at a different end of the county, not inspiring connecting with your network of neighbors that are around here. The idea is to bring your collective neighborhood together and then have that community that you can rely on moving forward, because you're going to meet people, you're going to understand what their backgrounds are, and that's a powerful thing moving forward. And if you're going very far outside of your quote unquote neighborhood, that connection may or may not be possible moving forward. So that's kind of the distinction that we've made there with neighborhood. So each neighborhood small grant, and that's what NSG stands for if you see it in different places. Love to use acronyms as everybody does, but we'll spell that out here. So each neighborhood small grant project must have 2 applicants as the leads. This is so that you have 2 people that are responsible for the project and provides that accountability. And the 2 applicants must belong to the same community but live at different addresses. So you couldn't have your spouse or a brother or sister be the co-applicant. We want to make sure that it is a separate individual or household that's participating. And this program is not intended to registered organizations or businesses. It's meant to empower residents. You could belong to an organization or run a business and apply for this, but you'd be applying as yourself. So for example, if you were a member of a recreation committee for either Picton or Bloomfield or Sophiasburg, you can certainly still apply, but you would be applying as yourself as the individual with a co-applicant. So a few more eligibility points here. Your project must be free to attend and participate in. So we're not looking for ticketed events. This is something to, again, encourage people to get together. And we are encouraging applicants to make sure that their projects are accessible for people with disabilities to attend and inclusive of people. So this is just making sure that people feel like they are able to come to your event in your neighborhood. So if you're doing a neighborhood party and you know that you have an individual that's your neighbor and they're in a wheelchair, maybe make sure that your event isn't up a large flight of stairs. Maybe put that into consideration when you're thinking about let's say if it's a barbecue, it might be in your backyard. Just keeping those things in mind when you're thinking about your projects. We also want to avoid fundraising or any sort of financial gains from these events. That's not the idea behind the neighborhood small grants. However, if your project is bigger than $500, you could seek donations or gifts in kind to support your project. So if local businesses want to get involved, they could contribute a donation above and beyond that. So that is permissible. We're just not looking to have anyone earn money out of it or for it to be a fundraising opportunity. And that the next point kind of goes over that as well. So we're not looking for events where you're going to be selling products or t-shirts or anything from it. This is just about getting people together. Large capital projects is not the intent of this as well. So by capital projects, that means anything that needs to be constructed or purchasing equipment like a computer or a playground is an example that's given here. Projects involving psychotherapy and counseling support are not eligible. Again, that just goes above and beyond the scope and idea of this project. Another very common question: grant money is not to be used to purchase alcohol. You can use it to purchase other beverages that are non-alcoholic. That is okay. Food is good, just not alcoholic beverages. And you must begin your project after the grant decision is made. So that would be after July of 2023. And you have up to a year to be able to run your project. So costs. So as expected, the grant sizes are anywhere between $50 and $500. So your grant requests are expected to be under $500. As mentioned, your project might be bigger than that. You might be looking for donations from other sources like businesses. So the actual event could be larger. It could be $1,000, but your grant, you can only apply for up to $500. I know this has been mentioned a couple of times, but it can't be repeated enough. You may not profit financially from your project. Grant money may be used to help pay people for their services. We also call this honorariums to help with the project. So an example here, you may have seen a couple of times the example of yoga in the park. So part of your grant could go towards an honorarium for the yoga instructor. And the honorarium cannot be more than $100 per project. So again, if you are bringing in someone that's going to be sharing their knowledge or skills, we've had the example here of a carpenter or maybe a face painter, or it could be a yoga instructor, as mentioned. They can be paid as part of your grant program. It just can't be more than $100. And if for whatever reason your program changes or it doesn't end up costing as much, any grant funds not utilized for your project must be returned to the county foundation, because this is a program that we're hoping to run again and again, and that will go back into this pot for more wonderful ideas, projects, and events. So how does one apply for a neighborhood small grant? As mentioned, applications are now open until June 17th. There are printable applications online, so you can grab a PDF, print it out, fill it out, and there's multiple ways to submit it, either by mailing it to our office, and I can make sure that you have that information. You can scan to email it to us, or you can drop it off as well. And we do have online applications too. So examples. I've mentioned a couple of times, yoga in the park might be one, face painting, learn to sew, knit, or quilt session with a local skilled residents. It could be a block party with a particular theme. This could be cleaning up an alleyway or a park with a lunch to follow, or it could be a pop-up session with a cartoon artist. Again, these are just ideas, and on our website, we have a link to more ideas from communities on the West Coast of Canada who have been doing neighborhood small grants for some time. So you can take a look through those and see if that gels or gives you any more ideas that you might want to participate in. So again, I encourage you to be creative with this. Really excited to see what people have in mind. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Kim to talk a little bit more about municipal information for your project. And Kim, since I am running the slideshow, you just let me know when you would like the next slide.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I also want to introduce Jane Vader, who's who you mentioned off the top, but Jane is our recreation and community facilitator, facilities booking coordinator. And so she has been in this game for a long time and has booked many, many events. So I'm going to go through these slides, but Jane, please jump in and add, correct at any point, because you have been doing this for a long time. Okay, next slide, please. So the big thing to take away is the municipality is here to help you with this. There's lots of ways we can help you. There are municipal spaces that can be booked for gatherings. We can answer questions while you're preparing your grant application. And I think my contact information, there's a section on the website, on the County Foundation website, about these grants, and all of the links and phone numbers and stuff that I have on these slides are there. And you can contact me or whoever the person is that specializes in the thing you're looking for and ask questions while you're preparing it. So it's not a test where you got to try and get it right on your own. And similarly, once the applications are all in June, we'll take a look at them at the county. And if there's any red flags of that's going to be a problem, then we can say, hey, you know what, you shouldn't do it this way, try it this way, and that will probably work. So we want to try and help make these things happen for you. And then, because the money can be spent up until July 2024, the municipality is always reviewing and updating bylaws and all the things that come out of bylaws. And so as your project date approaches, if it's going to be summer 2024, some things may change, and so you can also kind of contact the same people and say, okay, so this is approaching. Is everything still the same rules that I was expecting? Would be a good thing to do if it's a ways out.
Kim, can I jump in here for just a second
yes,
too?
Please.
So I highly recommend, and I may have missed it, sorry, because I had somebody pop into my office. If you are interested in booking a municipal space for your gathering, so just say you want to do a community baseball tournament or something like that, I highly recommend that you reach out and make sure that a couple dates that you're looking at is available. And I can do a loose booking with you. We do have a cancellation timeline. So, if you want to do it, in August, you can temporarily kind of book it. We'll fill out the contract and whatnot. And I'll just make a note on it that you have applied for the grant. And either we cancel it if you're unsuccessful, or if you still continue to go ahead, or if it's one of the smaller fees, you would just pay it before the time. So definitely check if you want to use a municipal space to make sure it's availability before you get into the big planning stages of your event.
That's a great point that we can hold it. Next slide, please, Dominique. This just tells you a little bit more about booking a public space. And, if you go onto the website, and this link will take you through, there are parks, sports fields, halls, ice rinks, the museum buildings and grounds. There are a lot of things that you may not realize that you can use. And you can see all those options and the rental costs on the website. And then for questions and to find out about regulations, this is Jane's actual phone number. And her email address. So she will be able to advise you on anything, and is the thing you're looking for available, and putting a hold on it. Also, some library branches have spaces that you can use for gatherings. And even, maybe you're not going to have an event in a library, but maybe you need a place to have a meeting to talk about planning your event. So libraries is another place that you can check with, and their locations are at this link here. Next slide, please. The idea of a block party or a street party, you need to talk to the municipality about that too. And there's actually a whole policy and application around special events road closures, because you need road barricades and permission, obviously, and from an emergency perspective, to make sure that what you want to do is going to be safe. So you have to contact the county operations department. That's the email address, and inquire about special events road closure, and they can tell you everything that you need to know to make this safe and possible, if it is possible. It's an if, but again, we're trying to make these things happen. It just needs to be safe. Next slide. Insurance. This is, I think it's mentioned in general about this grant on the website, but certainly in terms of using municipal spaces, although the grant money can't be used to purchase alcohol, my understanding is that you could have alcohol at your event. You just can't use grant money for it.
That is correct, yes.
And once you bring alcohol into the mix, insurance becomes a bigger deal. And as Jane will tell you, you absolutely have to have insurance if you're going to have alcohol at your event. And it's also strongly recommended for most other kinds of events. But there is an option to purchase insurance through the county, as opposed to having to figure that all out on your own. And Jane, I should let you jump in and probably explain this even better than I can.
Yeah, sorry, just a couple things. So definitely insurance is required for events with alcohol, whether it be on municipal property or on private property, if to an event to this magnitude. We only have very few facilities that are licensed facilities. So that's the Highline Hall, the Crystal Palace, and the Rotary Club of Picton Hall. None of our town halls or parks or anything like that are licensed venues. So you'd actually be required to get a special occasions permit as well. And that has to be obtained through the AGCO website. And if I can get onto the internet before we get on here, sorry, onto the website, I will post the link in the chat for everybody. It has a plethora of information that would be required for, you know, the private events and whatnot. Any event on municipal property that is having alcohol does require insurance. There needs to be a 5 million liability, and the corporation of the county of Prince Edward needs to be named as an additional insured. And again, I can set up the insurance for you on municipal properties. Like if you're going to do a rental, I don't know if I can do it through, like if it was to say be on private property. But most insurance companies, if you were to phone them up, they would know exactly what you need, what you're looking for, and would be able to set it up no problem. And again, even for events on municipal spaces, you're welcome to go through your own insurance provider. Should you choose, but as long as we're named as the additional insured and there's the minimum liability requirements are being met. So, and again, like back with the bookings of thing, if you have questions, you can reach out to me as well at my information on the slides, a couple back there.
And Jane, I was relieved when I was asking you in terms of if it was opting into the county insurance, is this hundreds of dollars? It is not.
No,
so it's not a budget breaker thing.
Yeah, it depends on the event. Events with alcohol tend to be a little bit more like the basic for like just because we follow a rating guide, so it does change annually, not by much, but for an event with under 75 people with alcohol in a municipal space, it's actually about $225.
Okay, so
yes,
I was thinking without alcohol. You were saying
without alcohol, it's much cheaper. Once you throw alcohol into the mix or high risk activities, it can increase quite a bit.
Something to think about even outside of insurance considerations.
Yeah.
Once you throw alcohol into a situation. Okay, next slide, please. And this is my last slide actually, and it's really just some other considerations. And there's no way to kind of exhaust everything you could possibly know because you're going to have ideas that I didn't think of. And then you can definitely ask about what's involved in that. Food safety is one. And this is one where the municipality does not oversee this, but I'm giving you the information to contact Hastings Prince Edward Public Health. And that is who does enforce public health guidelines related to food. And it really depends on where is your gathering. Is it in a public place? Is it in a private place? Is it open to the public? Is it not? And for me to try and create a list of rules, it's just much better to talk to the very friendly, helpful people at Hastings Prince Edward Health, who you can describe what it is that you want to do, and they will tell you exactly if they need to come and inspect something, if not, what's involved. There's no cost for it. So you just need to talk to them. There's food. Did you have something to add to that, Jane?
No, that sounds about right. Yeah.
There's other stuff like event tents. You know, when if you need to put up a big tent, at some point, putting up a big tent starts to be like, has the risks of erecting a building, right? Like it's a structure, it could fall. It needs a safety inspection, right? So you start getting into that. Fires, I mean, most people probably already know that you need a burn permit to have a fire in Prince Edward County, and that certainly would apply to any event like this. You can get it online, you can do it in person. There are rules. How big can the fire be? How close can it be to buildings and forests? We just had a burn ban this past weekend because it was so windy. And so if you were to come up with something that was very dependent on a lovely fire, if it's a really windy day or it's been a really dry spell, then there may be a burn ban and you can't do it. So some things to be aware of, and there's people there again that are very friendly and willing to help you with what it is you're trying to do and how to do it safely. Noise. There is a noise bylaw in the county. Amplified sound is prohibited between 11 p.m. and 9 a.m. There are exemptions possible for special events in non-residential areas. And again, you'd want to get in touch with our clerk's department by email or phone and just talk to them about what you're trying to do and is it exempt in any way, and they can help you out with that. And again, I mean, this is not a list of everything. You know, Jane just happened to mention in passing that you can't have bouncy castles on municipal property because there's a risk with those. And so anything that you're thinking about, it's just good to check and ask, and is that going to be allowed, or if it is allowed, under what conditions? And it's really about just being safe is what all these rules are about.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to mention from a municipal perspective, you mentioned recreation committees, Dominique, and the ward recreation committees receive funding from the municipality. And so they have budgets. And in talking to Lisa, who runs that department, sometimes they have money available. I mean, they're open to the community approaching them to say, hey, we want to do something. So you could approach your ward rec committee and say, here's what I'm doing. I'm applying for a grant, or I got a grant. And could you top this up? Could you help support part of this? And typically, from my experience, they would want, something that says sponsored in part by, the Ameliasburg Rec Committee kind of thing. So you can, I'll give the link to Dominique to put on the website, but there's a link on our county website on a page that lists all the rec committees. And you can, again, go through our clerk's office to say, hey, I want to talk to the chair of the rec committee. Who do I have to talk to? And basically, it would just be kind of pitching them and seeing if they have budget available and if what you're proposing kind of fits their mandate. So something else to think about.
Those rec committees might also be able to help get the word out about your project. So if it's been approved for a grant and it's in a certain area like Ameliasburg or Sophiasburg or wherever it ties into the recreation committee, you might even want to reach out to them to give them a heads up that you're doing X and it's open to this community, and they might be able to help out that way too in terms of awareness. And
they know how to organize events.
They do.
So, they can help you and say, oh, and don't forget to call this and hey, and we'll volunteer. They're very helpful people who want recreation to happen in the community, and will be typically very happy to talk to you about this.
All right. Well, I think in closing, reach out about your idea before you apply. We'll be able to give you some guidance or say, maybe you should talk to this person or make sure that you have this permit in hand beforehand, rather than just submitting. I think that's going to give you a higher chance of success, making sure that you have all those boxes ticked. So feel free to reach out to me at info@thecountyfoundation.ca. The information is available on our website. We can help shepherd and guide you to who is best to reach out to. And as Kim and Jane mentioned, information for the municipality is linked on our website as well. And we'll make sure to put the link for the recreation committees up there too, so that people can find them. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you all very much for joining to learn more about the Neighbourhood Small Grants program. And a big thank you to Kim Coster and Jane Bader for providing some additional information about safety requirements and permits that we might need to look into. Really appreciate it, and best of luck with your applications. I can't wait to see what ideas you have.